Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hands on SAP Dev with me, DJ. Excuse me, Q Macro. Oh, still got a cough. And I've just realised I've not taken my jumper off yet. Let me do that in a minute. But basically, welcome and thanks for joining. Good morning to Tom, to Volker. Aloha to you, Volker, and to Nico. I do like that music as well. This is, if you're not sure what we're talking about music-wise, Kiara, good morning to Brescia, to you in Brescia. Excellent. Yeah, we're talking about them. Really nice countdown little video. Let us know what you think in the chat. Good morning, moin to you, Sakib. Good morning, AP in Dusseldorf. Yeah, let us know what you think about this little bit of a countdown style thing. Lovingly and in great detail put together by our one and only friend Nico. So let us know what you think, because I think it's fair to say that, it's not that straightforward. If we want to keep it up to date with, a new featured piece of documentation, the latest upcoming SAP developer news and everything, then of course, we've got to keep it up to date. So let us know in the chat right now what you think and whether we should continue with it. Because if you like it, then we can and will continue with it. If it's, not that interesting, then, we'll knock it on the head because it's quite a lot of work. Anyway, good morning, Karthik. Why was the NPM package for CAP named as SAP CDS and as SAP CSTK? Wow, Karthik, I love it. Straight in there with a question directly. Why was the NPM package named for CAP? Oh, I see. For CAP, as in, obviously you capitalizing CAP because it's an acronym, but are you thinking it might be otherwise SAP CAP? That's a really good question. I mean, I think the heart of CAP is CDS, and it's really all about CDS. And also, you know what, thinking about it, it's such a great question. Thank you for, saying it out loud, what probably all of us were thinking internally without even realizing. Now, SAP is quite keen on using proper names for products and everything. And I think it's still fair to say that CAP is still a little bit rebellious. It's still a little bit sort of illegal to say the word CAP, because officially, we should say SAP Cloud Application Programming Model. But of course, that's such a complete mouthful and impossible to say, more than once without stumbling over your tongue, that we all say CAP. But CAP, I think, I know wasn't, and maybe still isn't, an official name from a branding perspective. So maybe that's why they chose CDS. I don't know. That would be my guess. But it's a great question to start off with. And would it have been easy? Yes. So I just saw the second sentence that you said. Would it have been easier if they named it SAP CAP? It creates a lot of confusion for newbies. That's interesting. I'll feed that back. I don't think they'll change it now, but I think that's a great question. Chanakya, good morning. The travel was okay. Well, actually, it was the whole CodeGem experience. I've just been just back from Poland last night. Had a brilliant experience with loads of fantastic people in Wrocław and in Warsaw. My travel back yesterday was a bit of a nightmare. It took me 13 hours door to door from leaving the hotel in Warsaw yesterday morning to getting back here home on the narrowboat. 13 hours because British Airways was delayed one of my flights and then cancelled another one of my flights. So I had to get the train from Heathrow to London, London to Manchester, Manchester to Wigan, Wigan to... Anyway, there we go. Good morning, everybody else as well. Matthias, good morning. How's your laptop sticker game going? Rangarajasri, hello to you as well. And AP, very nice, sets the mood. Oh, thank you for the feedback. So that's the feedback. Very nice, sets the good mood and informative too. Thank you for that feedback. Volker, Arun, this is SAP Sphere after all. We don't do names well. Volker, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you very much. Ashok, good morning to you in Belgium. And Nico, I kind of agree, but then the CDS language is so similar. Somnath, hello DJ and everybody else. Hello everybody. And Javier, good morning, and also to the rest of the early morning viewers. Exactly. I hope you got your coffee. In fact, I was so tired this morning from the travel. I got the wrong mug, so I've got my if you can see this, if you can read this, I have capsized mug, which was got for me by a lovely set of people in near Utrecht. So thank you, Wim, again. Javier, good morning, and Sidish, good morning, and Imtiaz, good morning. That's fantastic. So let's get started. Let's just get on with it. Yes, let me go to here. In fact, I was just while I was having my first coffee. I'm going to be leaving this marina. I'm in a marina at the moment. I stayed over in the marina over winter. Yeah, need coffee. Javier, need coffee. And I'm planning my next route. And I thought I'd just leave this up here. I'm going to go to Salthouse Dock in Liverpool. Just zoom out, just to show you where I am and where this whole thing is. There's the UK and everything. Brexit land, as it's now called. I'm going to be travelling at the end of this month, basically making my way over a couple of weeks to Liverpool Docks. Beautiful, amazing place. I'm going to stay there for a bit. And I think it's just it might be interesting for you to see, the way that I plan my route. There's bridges here, and I need to know where the swing bridges are, so I have to open them with my key and stop the traffic and everything, go through, and then go down here, and then here's a winding hole. But basically, if I need to turn around and go back the other way, you need to look for a winding hole because the canal's quite narrow, and the narrow boats are quite long. And then down here, got some locks. There's a lock. Now, actually, the arrow, as it were, going that way means that is going upstream. So here, I'm going to be descending, going from east to west. I'm going to be descending down a level in that lock there. There's Princess Dock lock down there. So descending down into the sort of the basin. So anyway, that's going to be my journey. And you can see the route here has got bridges and aqueducts and winding holes and locks here and bridges, more bridges and everything. So that's how and also what I love is this stuff is still measured in furlongs, which is about, roughly 200 meters. Anyway, that's that. Did you know that the January release of CAP stroke CDS, just to your point, is out? And we have CDS JS, the Node.js version is 7.6. In fact, in this morning's, I always think, news is really sort of, my brain's still Friday morning. This week's episode of SAP Developer News, there's a section on the January release. Covers all sorts of things, open telemetry plugin and everything, which I just thought we'll have a little play with very briefly before we get started, because it's just like so bonkers easy to use these plugins, right? And, that reminds me, Nico, can you share the URL to Tom's or the developer challenge this month, which is all about CDS plugins, and this is a CDS plugin, right? By the way, the International Day of Women and Girls in Science is this coming Sunday, the 11th of February. And to sort of mark that occasion, this week's SAP Developer News is brought to you solely by the women, the girls of the SAP Developer Advocates team. So top kudos to them for doing the news. And there's also going to be, I think, who talks about that? Somebody talks about that at the end. Anyway, there's going to be a special news episode all about women in tech, and specifically in the SAP world as well. So there we go. There we go. So, okay. So, Brexit land, Javier is smiling. Phil, hey Phil, good afternoon, good evening. Leo Van Hengel in the house. Fantastic. And Burak. Good morning, Burak. So, the latest SAP Developer News. Let me just share that with you on the chat there. Let's stick that in. Okay, good. Let's get started. Now, actually, if we have a look at this open telemetry plugin, let me share that in the chat with you as well. Nico, if you're still there, can you share that? In fact, I don't know where it is. February. There we go. Look at that. That's the internal thing. I don't know what the. Where is it in the SAP community? Can you go and have a look for me, please, Nico, and post it as a link? Yeah. Of course, you can't post links. Oh my goodness me. I know. Is it in here? Is it in the information? I don't know. Oh my goodness. Launch of the new guide to pre-bid. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. We'll find it. Anyway, let's get going. In fact, let's have a look at this January release. And just before we get started, just to show how bonkers easy these plugins are. Oh yes, sorry Nico, you pasted the link and it doesn't go through. Yes, in fact, where did Tom post it? Application development. It could be in there. I have no idea. Let's have a look. I don't know where anything is here. Oh, there we go. Look at that. There we go. Top kudos posts. Kudoed. That's not a word. There we go. There it is. There it is. Fantastic. So let's share that as well. Brilliant. Okay. So open telemetry plugin. It doesn't matter what telemetry is. It's basically, extra measurements. It took this long to do this, and it took this long to do this, and it took this long to do this, and everything. And open telemetry is a thing. But the key thing I want to show, just very briefly, is how bonkers easy it is to use some CDS plugins. You can just, let's do it. Open telemetry. It provides observability features such as tracing and metrics. Okay, so it'll give you stuff like this, these milliseconds and blah, 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 and this is what happened, and woo, yes, and you can send it to open telemetry instrumentation sort of recipients and everything. But just for now, cap.js telemetry is the package. Now, if we say, this is where we left off last week. We have our simple service, and all it is a service with a function defined. We played around with this, and we run it, and then we go, hello world. That's fine, because we've got the implementation of the service in our banana.js. It's not in service.js, so we deliberately want to explicitly say where the implementation is. Now, if we just say npm add cap.js, now, Volker, can you describe maybe, or anybody describe what this cap.js prefix is, why it's called cap.js, what it's for, and everything. In fact, in this week's developer news, Nora talks about best of cap.js, the website and everything. So have a look at that. So that's related. So cap.js in fact, there we go. If I run that again, if I run CDS watch, there we go. Let's start that up. Logged in with the wrong account. Excusez-moi. Bit of French there on a Friday morning from Nico. Excellent. So there we go. I'm running, making these requests. Okay, so we get the basic logging output. But if we add npm add cap.js telemetry, let's just add that. See what's going to happen. So Volker is saying cap.js double equals, nicely done there. Volker, nicely done there, is the JavaScript edition of cap. Exactly. And it's a sort of the community and SAP sort of combined sort of space, the namespace for NPM packages. So, folks can contribute. In fact, while we're waiting for this, it's installed. While we're waiting for this to install, it's installed already. Best of cap.js. Best of cap.js. Look at that. That's in the news as well. So I'll just paste that anyway. There we go. There we go. Hot packages. All these different packages. Capire and UI5, and you'll also have things from cap.js. So have a look at that as well. It's amazing. Cap.js notifications, CDS plugin. There's another plugin. So we've just installed this plugin. Now, if I run CDS watch happens. I'm just going to run that. Let that start up, and then hit refresh here again. And there we go, we get telemetry. Look, I mean, could that be any easier? Anyway, that's that. So let's remove it again because we don't want to confuse ourselves. npm remove. Fine. That was just a little bit of a digression, and it's already 8:15. DJ, what are you doing? Okay, now, what I want to talk to you about today, or talk with you, because I want your opinion. We have super fantastic people all in the chat here, so let me know what you think. Let me know if I'm doing things wrong. Let me know if you want to have a play around with something slightly differently. But generally, the direction I want to take us in today is to start by building the simplest cap service. Not a service that is like a little hello world with a no data function import, but a service with one or two entities. Okay, we're going to start defining as simple as possible. Okay, remember in a previous episode we looked at the DB server and app, or I should say all the way around, the DB, the server, and the app directory, where we have the DB directory for traditionally the entity definitions, the definitions which are closest to the persistence layer. So this is where we'll define our entities. In the serve directory, you might have CDS definitions to define services, and the app directory is where you put your front ends and stuff. Let's leave that for now. However, you don't have to do that. And as we saw, in fact, we've blasted away. There are no app, DB, or serve directories here. All we've got is this services CDS, which is this thing here. And we've got our Banana.js implementation. So actually, let's remove Banana.js. So we've only got services.cds. So of course, now when I run that, when nothing happens, when I run that CDS watch, when I run that, we should have, oh yeah, okay, we even get an error here. Look at that. Oops, ports, that didn't have, I mean, to that. We even get an error here. Amazing. Error on server start. Fail loading service implementation from banana.js. That's because we've still got that up here. So let's delete that, save that, and now it's fine, because basically we were explicitly telling the CAP server, go and load this file, because that's where the implementation is. Okay, so it went and tried to load the file, and it couldn't find the file, so it gave us an error. Now we're not explicitly telling it where the implementation is, so it will assume, if it exists, that the implementation for this particular service, so the service definition brackets s in this file, is in a file called services.js, as we found out from last time, right? So it doesn't try to load, if because it's implicit. It's not going to give us an error if services.js doesn't exist. However, it will give us an error if we try and run this now, because it'll say service say has no handler. Okay, right. Okay, so far so good. So Rashekar says CapJS is starting point for CDS CLI. I'm not sure what you mean there. CapJS, basically that actual, those 6 characters, cap-js, is the namespace prefix for NPM packages for the Node.js cap for all sorts of packages. So John Murray in the house, welcome to John. I was chatting to John last night. Very good, great to see the latest update to cap, although somebody's receiving from the community. Exactly. So that's a really nice way of thinking about what CapJS is about as well, which is allowing the community, it's a facility for the community to contribute as well and stand shoulder to shoulder with, everybody, Cap team. So Javier says, question, are those CapJS NPM modules following any security policies to make them available to be used at enterprise level? If so, where can we find the documentation of the security policies and or check that those NPM modules should pass? I don't think there's any explicit security policies. What security policies were you thinking of in particular? And how might that differ from anything else open source that you might use in the enterprise? Let me know. Or are you talking about what Volker is answering here? It maps authorization from the sort of external ID, Entra to the like Azure Active Directory, to the CAP authorization artifacts. Are you talking more about how external security and role-based authentication maps onto enterprises, or are you talking more generally about how secure are these modules to use in the enterprise? Let us know. Great questions. Great questions. Okay, so while we think about that, let's think about building ourselves a simple service, okay? And I think by stumbling through building a simple service, hopefully we'll learn things. We'll find out things ourselves. So why don't we start out by just defining the simplest service that could possibly work. Okay, so why don't we say service bookshop, because bookshop is this is basically a really simple way. We have bookshops, and I'm not going to try and sort of excuse using bookshop. The previous sort of default go-to was S-Flight, wasn't it? Anybody around here in terms of you know what? It was such a long journey yesterday, and I can feel my brain not working properly, or working even less properly than normal. So apologies, I'm a bit tired actually from the journey yesterday. So Javier saying, checks for vulnerabilities, auditing the code. Well, it's open source, So that's exactly the same. We're in the same game. We're in the same ballpark as any open source module that you may want to use. For example, Express. Express is an open source module. You know, that's actually used part and parcel of CAP. And anyway, yeah, that's a great question. But I'm not aware that there's anything extra above and beyond what happens normally in open source and using open source in the enterprise. What happens there? Great question, though. Anybody got any thoughts on that? Put it in the chat. So we've got a service bookshop and it's running. Look, loaded model from one file. So if we go back here and press refresh, we have the, we know what this is all about now. We've got OData v bookshop. We know why the OData v4 prefix exists. Bookshop is the name from there. And then we can look at the metadata, which is pretty much empty. Okay, this is an OData service. S-Flight, as Phil says, S-Flight reminds me of IDES. Oh, international, is it international? International Demonstration and Education System. Yeah, wow, happy days, IDES. We used to, it's like getting a CD with an IDES install was like gold dust, wasn't it? Oh yeah, got an SAP system with some actual data in it. Amazing. It was called IDES, I think, yes. So S-Flight was basically a set of tables about flights and airlines and trips and whatever. Interestingly enough, there is a modern day trip pin. There we go, OData service, curated by Oasis at services.odata.org. There is a trip pin service OData. Where is it? Trip. Yeah, we go with sample OData service, and that is also about public transportation and flights and airport locations and everything. Which that's quite interesting. That it's the same sort of thing. Again, it's easy for the brain to think about. Anyway, let me just share that with you. It's quite good. This is actually quite a good and well-rounded sample OData v4 service. Let me share that in the chat as well. Shows your age, Phil. Yes, well, I mean, you and me both, mate. You and me both. Hot packages, get rid of that as well. There we go. Okay, so now, what is a service without entities? So let's start defining an entity. Simplest thing that could possibly work. Now, I'm sure many of you have seen sample applications from CAP where the entities are defined in separate files, in separate directories, like I've talked about with DB, serve, and app. But, oh, here we go. What's this? Stefan, good morning, Stefan. Late comment. It's not late comment. Comment whenever, whatever. Late comment regarding the question why the runtime and design time tools in CAP are called CDS. I think it's to align itself with the ABAP CDS world, expressing intent to be for the same purpose. That's a great comment. It's a great observation. I'm sure that there's some logic and truth in that as well, Stefan. Yeah, I think that's good. Because CDS is the thing that binds it, right? CDS is the thing that binds this sort of, in my words, lowercase, the golden path of development, keeping the core clean and develop your own stuff. If you've got an ABAP hat on, then it's RAP, and if you've got a non-ABAP hat on, then it's CAP. But basically, you're writing the same, philosophically, you're thinking at the same level in declarative terms, in entities and relationships and services and annotations and so on. So, DJ, stop talking, start doing. Now, what we're going to do is define something. So, entity books. Okay, let's save that. But we also get here an error saying mismatched, expecting something. You need to give us something. Entity books. There we go. But we still need something as well. We need to give us something. Mismatched, expecting something like that. So, entity books. There. Look at that. Is that the simplest thing that could possibly work? Well, again, the amazing thing is that there's so much help for us in this tight design time cycle. That look at these beautiful things. Now, some people look at these and say, "Oh my God, it's all disastrous and there's so many errors in CAP and everything." No. CAP is helping us to do the right thing and telling us stuff. Look at that. So what is it saying here, right at the bottom? Error, services, expecting entity to have at least one element, which is neither virtual nor calculated. I mean, it's saying, for goodness sake, just what's the point of having an entity if it's got no elements in it, right? Which is fine. So let's give it one. So I'll say here, let's give it a key. You know, all good entities have keys. And for those of you thinking what I'm thinking, you're thinking, we'll come back to this. Key ID and make it an integer. As you can see here, what I'm using, of course, is VS Code, which is not my normal editor, but you know, there's an awesome extension for VS Code. I'm sure you're all aware, but let's have a look at it. Where is it? In the dev container, it is. Let's get rid of the recommended. Can we put that up there like that instead? Dev container. Here we go. Here we go. So inside the dev container, I've got these things: ESLint, Rainbow CSV, so we can highlight CSV, the REST client, okay, fine, and SAP CDS language support, right? And it's the latest version, supporting 7.6.0. Remember, that's the latest release, the January release. So it's this that gives us all this goodness, all this IntelliSense, that's the Microsoft term, isn't it? All this command completion. So there we go. So let's save that. And now it's sort of happy. So we've got a single entity, books, and the naming convention, the CAP naming convention for entities is that it should be capitalized, capital B, plural. Now, this is still a part of me that I know that there are reasons why the convention is to have for plural entities, but there's still a small voice in my brain saying it should be singular. Really, it just makes more sense logically to me. But I don't know. You know, what do I know? I've got a small brain, so you know. So let's take the CAP conventions and use the plural. Okay. Good day, Yorksky. Sorry, Yorksky. Good day. Let's take the plural. And let's have a look over here. Let's go over here and refresh. Oh, it's already refreshed. And look at the metadata. You know, we all love metadata. We love OData, metadata, XML. You know, it's still horrible to look at, but you can read it, you can stare at it. It's nicely formatted. But there we've got the entity type, books. We've got our property, name, ID. It's an int32 integer. It can't be nullable because it's a key. And in fact, there's the XML element that is telling us that the key or keys properties is this one here. It's a reference to that property. Okay, so far so good. So why don't we also have, there's no point having a books entity without a title string. Okay, now notice let's refresh that. There we go. Notice that we can already start performing operations on this fully fledged OData service. This already is a fully functioning OData service that will respond appropriately to create, read, update, delete, and query OData operations. Right now, we're of course performing a query operation. Let me just put that full screen for a second. A query operation, an OData query, because we're asking for an entity set on the books entity, right? Now, let's stop there for a second and think, well, you know, it's not very exciting. So let's add some data. The convention that we, I think, talked about was that if we create a directory called, I mean, see if we can do this with the keyboard. I've been trying to learn a few more keyboard shortcuts in VS Code. I'm not a VS Code user, like I keep saying, but it is pretty awesome, and it has good support for keyboard users. For example, I've learned the other day that I can just open and close this sort of this bit here that has the Explorer or the run and debug thing or the extensions. I can open and close that with Command B. So John Murray says, plural versus singular debate aside, I love that it is an opinionated framework and removes a lot of the inconsistency we used to end up with caused by differing developer opinions. John, I couldn't have said it better myself. This is one of the many things I love about CAP. It's an opinionated framework, convention over configuration, grow as you go. All these different things come together to make developers' lives easier. And yeah, it sort of removes the debate, right? This is the opinion. This is what it should be. It's almost like, a philosophical version of Prettier RC, a set of Prettier RC rules, isn't it? Or like the GoFMT, it'll format your Go code. There's only one way to format Go code, for example. So, forget the argument about 2 spaces, 4 spaces, tabs, whatever. No, just do it this way. Okay, so that's great. I love it. So let's give ourselves some data. Let's go and create a new file. Let's save that file as data. I think you can also create directories by sort of, maybe, I don't know. Let's see. Books.csv. Let's see if that works. Oh, there we go. Oh, look, the folder data does not exist. Would you like to create it? Yes, please. There we go. Now, we're in editing a CSV file. Notice that I've created it in a data directory. Okay, so by convention, the CAP server will look for data to load in sort of design time mode into the entities to serve. Okay. Let's think about the name of this file shortly. But if we put in the CSV, we've got ID and what's it called? Title. So let's have ID 1, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. 2, Mostly Harmless. Yes, and of course, these are both Douglas Adams books, not in any particular order, of course. And let's have another book. I don't know, Use of Weapons. There. If anybody knows what that is, let me know. Let me know who the author is and whether you've read it. Absolutely incredibly fantastic book by a Scottish author. There's a clue. So now, what CAP will do, what the CAP server will do, is it will look for appropriately named CSV files to load. However, if we refresh this, there's no data. Why is that? Can anybody who's familiar with, let's put that over there, anybody who's familiar with the output here, and this is why I always stress on our CAP code jams, that to know and to love and to see this as, know this like the back of your hand, you'll notice things that appear that are not normally there, and you'll notice things that don't appear that are normally there. So I'm noticing right now, well, let's go through them. Loaded model from one file, services.cds, great. And we also know from the previous episodes why it's found and loaded automatically without us saying anything, services.cds, because that's one of the 2 hard-coded file names, schema and services, alongside the DB app and serve directories. Blah, 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 successfully deployed to in-memory database. But in between this log line here and this log line here, quite often we see some log lines that talk about loading data from these CSV files. But we haven't got that here. Even though we've got a CSV file, books.csv, in a data directory. So we're doing what we think is the right thing. So why isn't the data being loaded? So Kiara says, Douglas Adams' heart. Yes, Douglas Adams, DNA. His initials were DNA, which is quite cool. Died all too soon at the age of 50. Was he in a gym or something in Los Angeles? So yes, Douglas Adams wrote many books, including The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and also Mostly Harmless. But use of weapons, does anybody know? Who wrote Use of Weapons? It's an author that writes under 2 slightly different names, fiction and science fiction. Use of Weapons is science fiction. Chanakya, is that how you pronounce? Put yes or no, or what's something, Chanakya. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Because I know I pronounced it incorrectly previous episode. I apologise. So it's not in the DB folder, which is the default directory. Now, that's interesting. Shall we put it in the DB folder and find out? Let's find out. I'm not going to dismiss that. So if we say here, make dir DB and move data to DB. So now, hold on. Tree, is it? That's not. Can we ignore pattern? Tree, ignore node modules. There we go. Fine. So now we've got the books CSV people who know me will know that sort of, I'm being slightly obtuse and using tree when we've got a perfectly sort of acceptable, tree display here. But actually, it's sort of anyway. DJ, get on with the program. We've now got the books.csv in the data directory in a DB directory. Let's see what happens now. CDS watch. Still nothing. Still nothing. So it was a great guess, Chanakia, but it's not quite the reason why we're not finding this stuff. So let me move that back again. Move DB data to here, RMD DB. Let's get back to where we were. Tree, there we go. So all we've now got is a data directory with books.csv. So Somnath says, hi DJ, hi Somnath. Do you like to call out CDS add data features? Oh, yes. And also John Murray says, great point, excellent feature. Chanakia, thank you for the confirmation. Why not move it to test data? Okay, we'll try that in a minute, Volker. So what Somnath is referring to, CDS add, right? So CDS add is a facility which we did play around with very briefly in episode 2. CDS add -- help. Let's move this. In fact, let's move this up there. There we go. Help. Add CSV headers for modeled entities. Okay, we'll do that for the next entity. Okay, in fact, no, let's what happened there? Let's do that now. Let's see what happens. RM data books, because you can type it in quickly again, right? CDS add data. Right? There we go. And I think this might help us with the answer to the question. There we go. Brilliant. Sorry, Volker. And yes, so Volker is also saying, and the thing I was trying to get to, so Somnath, well done for suggesting something that's beautifully, subtly going to tell us the answer without telling us the answer, showing us another example of the awesome CDS add feature, and again, showing us the convention over configuration and the opinionated nature of CAP. What has it done? Let me remove the data directory now for a second. What it's done is create, because conventionally it likes having a DB directory. Conventionally, as we've sort of talked about, it knows to look for data in CSV files in a directory called data. And it will look for and use CSV records for entities as long as, or not as long as, if it finds that data in files that are named a specific way. What did I name the file? I named the file books.csv with a capital B. And that sort of, that makes sense because it's the books entity. However, things, as we'll see in the next episode next week, start to get quite complex. Oh, sorry. Ignore that. Rewind. This is the simplest thing that could possibly work. We've got this really, super simple, deliberately simple books entity. But as soon as you start doing things that will be useful in the enterprise, you're going to have multiple entities, you might have multiple teams building these entity definitions, using services, you're pulling things in from left, right, and center. So you want to manage these definitions through namespaces, through prefixes. So what's happened here is that it's created the file, but see what it's called? bookshop.books.csv. Okay. Where does this bookshop prefix of file name come in from? The service name. So we've got a books entity in the bookshop service. So the file name should be, for loading data into this entity, bookshop.books or bookshop-books.csv. Oh my goodness, so much chat. Fantastic. Volker says, might not move it to test data. Well, I think we're okay for that now. And include the fitting prefix. That was the more important part. So we need a schema. So Johnny's saying we need a schema, a namespace, although it's probably showing my cap rusting. Hey, no cap rustiness here allowed. In fact, I'm going to take my jumper off because it's really warm now. 1 second. And while I take my jumper off, I'm going to see if I can read. Nope, I need my glasses to read that. It's a bit small. There we go. Yes. There we go. So Phil Cooley. Oh, Phil, I've not even read your sentence yet, but I love I did not understand. I did not understand the reference to opinionated, but I think this helps to explain it. Oh, okay, yes. Opinionated, a framework that's another example of an opinionated framework, and I think I've used this example before, is Rails. It has opinions. I think partly because its creator, David Heinemeier Hansson, has opinions, which is great. And rather than, I used this example yesterday, day before yesterday in Warsaw in the Code Jam. Somebody was talking about opinions and stuff and opinionated frameworks and configuration and having to do either no configuration or loads of configuration before you even start. I remember fighting with J2EE and you had to configure the heck out of everything before you even got off the start line. Okay, so that was a very unopinionated framework, but an opinionated framework, it has opinions as to how you should do things. That goes hand in hand with, therefore, having conventions such that if you don't say anything, it's going to do things in a certain way. That's what that means. Is it opinion or put the file here? Well, actually, put the file here if you want to not have to lift a finger. This is a really good discussion. So an opinionated framework with conventions in this CAP case means that if you follow CAP's opinions, if you agree with them and follow those conventions that it's expecting you to follow, then magic will happen without you doing anything. For example, remember last week, and in fact here, in the hello world, remember the hello world? It told us to create this world.cds in the serve directory, to define a service called say with a function in it. And then it told us to create a file called world.js, also in the serve directory, okay, with the implementation of that service so that the function could be, implemented. Nowhere in here did we have to specify explicitly, the implementation for this service is in this file. It's implicit because it's after that convention. The opinion is that if you put a JS file next to a CDS file of the same name in the same directory, it's going to use that as its implementation, right? Does that make sense? Yes, exactly. If you abide by the opinions, it is a massive helper. Okay. John Murray says, I've just realised where we're matching fleeces. John Murray, excellent. I'm probably not allowed to name the store, but I will go there again next time I go outdoors. So I think that's I think we know what we're talking about. Excellent. So am I catching all this chat here? Stefano says, how easy is it to connect to other databases apart from SQLite and HANA Cloud, Postgres, MySQL? Pretty damn easy. So, for example, if we have a look at npm and cap PostgreSQL, let's have a look. PostgreSQL. PostgreSQL, where is it? CDS PostgreSQL, I can't find it. CDS PostgreSQL. Well, let's just go straight to it. Cap JS PostgreSQL. Where is it? What's going on? What's going on with my brain? Cap PostgreSQL npm. Postgres, not PostgreSQL. DJ brain. Okay. So basically, this is all you need to install the drivers for Postgres, for example. Thank you, Nico. This 13-hour journey yesterday has just completely addled my brain. I apologize. So we go. Let me just share that in there. There we go. Fantastic. Okay, cool. By the way, I'm monitoring the performance of the container, the Docker container called Wonderful Montalcini. That is the container that we connect to VS Code. In fact, we can see it there. Remote Explorer. There we go. Cat B2B main. That's this one here. Wonderful Montalcini. There we go. Anyway, so at random. Get back to there. So where were we? Okay, so we've now got a file called Bookshop Books CSV. CSS Watch. If we start up CSS Watch, now what we get is this record here that, again, if you embrace and stare at and grow to love the output from the CAP server, you'll have noticed that, there was something missing, and now it's there in it from db data bookshop.books CSV. So now when we go across here and press refresh, hopefully, what? Books? What's going on? Oh, of course, I've deleted the data. Idiot DJ. So, no, let's do that. Close that without saving. Don't save. So let's go and put some data in there again. DB data bookshop books CSV. ID title, ID 1, the pitch. I had it there. I could have copy pasted it. Hikers to the galaxy. Let's just save that one. There we go. And refresh. There we go. There it is. Okay, let's add another one. To mostly harmless. Just to give you another clue as to who this other author might be, let's do another one of his books. The Player of Games. Anybody can tell who that is? Come on. The Player of Games. Now, in it from DB data, refresh. There we go. Now, we haven't even started. Look, it's 8:47 already. But this is brilliant conversation. Oh, Imtiaz. Hi, Imtiaz. I might have missed this, but wanted to know, what does module exports actually do? Great question. Great question. Now, we've got rid of the service implementation here, but let's go back to the documentation. Here, you are referring to this, right? So, module exports is a Node.js package or module management mechanism. So imagine you have, regardless of language, Python, Perl, JavaScript, whatever. And you want to build a library, a module, a package that has a series of functions that you want to expose to the users of that package. You might have things that are internal to that package, functions that are internal to that package, and you might have functions that you want that package to expose. So when people import that package, they can, get a reference to the function and start using it. The functions, or the entities, that's not, DJ, don't use the word entities, the things in that package that you're creating that you want to expose, you want to make available to the consumers of your package, you expose by making them available through this special property called exports, module.exports. Okay? So that's what it's for. It's basically a way of making stuff in a module available to the consumers. So Sidish says that in a much better way than I could in one sentence. The way to expose the function to outside the JS file. Perfect. Okay. Now, I hear you ask, what happens if I've got more than one function? Because, this is just exposing one thing. It's exposing an anonymous function. But what you can also do is the value you can assign to the exports property can be an object. Okay, so you can have multiple things in that object, obviously. Okay, brilliant. So where were we? Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, and go back to here. Just to prove that it doesn't need to be in the DB directory, make the data. Oh, in fact, move DB data to here. And rmdia db tree. There we go. So we've now moved it up one level. Okay, so we got, for the moment, I want to sort of keep away from the DB server and app directories and do the simplest thing that could possibly work. Okay, so CDS watch, and we're still getting that thing loaded. Okay, refresh. There it is. And in fact, also move data thingy to data, but what you'll also see quite a lot is a dash there, books.csv. DJ, you idiot. More haste, less speed. Let's just fix that. How do you rename it in VS Code? CSV, not DSV, CSV. CDS watch. There we go. Still works. Okay. So Intias, you're welcome. Oh, Sid. I like that, Sid. Now, you know what? I'm going to apologise. I had so many things planned for this. So I wanted to cover, we've still got 8-9 minutes left, but I wanted to cover, a second entity and an association, a managed association, and then moving the stuff to outside of the service definition itself. But we can, let me know, please. Let me know in the chat. Type something in the chat right now to tell me whether you prefer this conversation style and we don't get that far, or whether you want to go faster, when you can move forward and cover more ground in a quicker way. Let me know, please. Let me know in the chat, because I never know whether this is just like too obvious, but or what. So let me know. So we've got that here, we've got that there. So let's go back to our services CDS. Tell you what, let's define. Oh, by the way, yeah. So what that did, by the way, the CDS add. So we got completely distracted. The CDS add data. There was a brilliant suggestion from somebody up there. I can't scroll up to find out. What that did was create this file with the first record, the header record. So it worked out that ID and title. So Stefan says, conversation style with behind the scenes insight are appreciated. Thank you, Stefan. And Matthias, conversation style is perfect. Oh, great. Okay. Thank you. So that's good to know. Why don't we, which one should we do? Which one should we do in this time available? Okay, let's create a second entity. Because, yeah, okay, I know. Yeah, we can use this to learn about aspects. Maybe we can cover aspects. What do you reckon, Volker and Nico and everybody? Oh, what's going on? Oh, Google's... Go away, Google, on my phone. Stop. What's going on? There. Entity authors. Key. An author has an ID as well. Key ID. ID. And that's also... Let's have an integer. And an author's got a name. Right, that'll do. String. I don't think I've typed one word correctly here. Okay, so... Now if we go back here, refresh, there's no surprise there, right? Where's my head's at the bottom? Cool. There's no surprise there. So we have books, great. And we have authors, great. And we've got no data there, right? So why don't we add data bookshop authors.csv. Let's add into their ID and name, and we'll have, now just bear with me, just for the purposes of us having a super simple service with simple entities and simple data. Let's not do really complex IDs. Let's just have things that sort of make sense. So when we see like 101, we know it's an author, in the 100 series. When we see 123 as a book, it just helps my small brain. So 101, Douglas Noel Adams. There we go. That's what the N stands for. And 102, nobody's guessed what who the author of Player of Games and Use of Weapons and the General Culture series. John Murray, I thought you might know what that is. This seems the sort of book you quite enjoy, this series you would quite enjoy. So Somnath, the topic is back to basics. Slow and steady is what I think is needed. Somnath, great comment. Thank you. Yes, concepts are important here, not building a brilliant app, I believe. Somnath, thank you. Yes. Aspects for the win. Yes. AP says I would like to be a little faster. Okay, so just. So Srinivas, hello DJ. Hello Srinivas in India. Fantastic. Welcome. So, and the person is Ian M. Banks. He writes under the name Ian Banks when he writes fiction, but when he writes science fiction, he has the M in it. There we go. So now CDS watch. Look at that. Automatic. We've put a CSV file with the quote unquote, I hate people do that, quote unquote right name bookshop prefix, authors.csv in a directory that CAP, by convention, because it's opinionated, will look for and pick up. And it says in it from data bookshop authors. If we refresh this, fine. Now, in the last few minutes, at least we didn't cheat by Googling it. Exactly, Phil, exactly. This sort of thing, let's say, I mean, it's a really super simple example, but this sort of thing, you know, I'm already repeating myself, right? And what does dry stand for? There's a programming, not paradigm, there's a programming approach, you know, a good practice, dry. Can anybody tell me what dry stands for? Okay, it's an acronym. Audience only reads books on CAP. Yes. Yes. So let me know what dry stands for. And I'm going to try and be a little bit drier in our CDS definition by, oops, I'll type it out first, using from, what the heck is that? Now I'm sure you've all, let me save that for a minute. You've all seen, John Murray says, exactly, don't repeat yourself. Don't repeat yourself. And Somnath says, yes, but author I wish DJ. I'm not sure what you mean by Somnath. Let me know what you mean. Sorry, my brain's not working today, so I don't understand what that means. John Murray, although I prefer the wet principle. Tom, don't repeat yourself. Exactly. So where am I repeating myself? Look, key ID. In fact, VS Code even, you know, underlines the fact. Look, blue highlight, blue highlight. You got the same bloody thing there, right? So instead of having these sort of common properties, instead we can get rid of that. Oops, and get rid of that. If I save that. Oh, check it out, okay? I've sort of made a mess of this now by removing the ID property, which means that in the automatic loading of data, right? In the automatic loading of data, it's trying to load this value, for example, 1, into a column called ID, right? Why is it doing that, by the way? Why is it doing that? In fact, here's a note to your future self, DJ. We'll look at why it's doing that in the next episode next week. So DJ, I always watch these back and make notes, what to do, what we did, etc. So next week, let's look at why it did that. Let's look in the compiled DDL, right? So instead, let's just add this thing. So we can say service bookshop entity books CUID. Let's do that as well. Oops. There we go. There we go. Now we're back to normal. Things are working down there. There's the IDs. Look, ID there. There's the IDs, books, IDs, everything. So everything's back to normal. But now what we have done is we have, this is my term, we have decorated both entities with an aspect. Okay. We'll look next week as to more precisely what an aspect is. But imagine you're building an application and your colleagues are building an application. Folks in SAP are building applications. We all use a small set of very similar things like countries, currency codes, information about, you know, last created, last changed, who changed this, who changed, all, you know, all the basic sort of common stuff. So CAP supplies a library of common stuff, including aspects and also types. We'll look at the difference between aspects and types next week, hopefully. And they're all in this NPM package, right? So inside there, in fact, if CUID, there it is. Look at that, aspect CUID. So next week, we'll dig into what this means, what we've done, why that's better. We're not repeating ourselves anymore, and we'll dig in more as to how to decorate entity definitions and make things more concise, less surface area for things to go wrong. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next week. And until then,